some more Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy of the Duelist. Today's video is a new archetype, the Monarch. This will be some trial and error here because it's only been like a couple of Monarch cards I actually use, and typically they're either Mobius the Frost Monarch or the Zarborg the Thunder Monarch. I use at least those two in the past when playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Video games. So they're like very, tailor-made for different attributes that play to certain strength, and they're highly regarded for their special abilities only activating when you tribute summon, and they typically refrain from any special summons of all kinds. So we'll go over each card and see what their ability is. And just so you all know, you can follow me on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter for more content like this. So that's oh, and I did find out about some few supports here and there, so I managed to gather as a decent amount of cards that I was able to put into a deck, but I burned through my limit, so I couldn't put in my at least certain cards. I had to keep at least Swords of Villain Light, Mirror Forest, and Monster Reborn, which is my go-to support magic and trap cards that I have to have in the decks. But 1 second here, get some water. Okay, Zarborg the Thunder Monarch. If this card is tribute summoned, target one monster on the field, destroy that target. Zarborg the Mega Monarch. You can tribute summon this card by tributing one tribute summon monster. If this card is tribute summoned, target one monster on the field, destroy it. Then, if it was a light monster, both players send as many cards as possible from their extra deck to the graveyard, but not more than the original level rank or of that destroyed monster. If this card was tribute summoned by tributing light monster, add this additional effect. You choose the cards your opponent sends to the graveyard. Telios, Talos, the Mega Monarch. You can tribute summon this card by tributing one tribute summon monster. If this card is tribute summoned, look at your opponent's hand and discard one card from their hand. Then, if it was a monster card, inflict damage to your opponent equal to its original level times 200. If this card was tribute summoned by tributing a fire monster, add this additional effect. Also inflict 1000 damage to your opponent after that. Okay, this Talos, the Firestorm Monarch. If this card is tribute summoned, discard one random card from your opponent's hand. Then if it was a monster card, inflict damage to your opponent equal to its original level times 100. Reza the Storm Monarch. If this card is tribute summoned, target one card on the field, place that target on the top of the deck. Reza the Mega Monarch. Same thing, tribute summon, activate this particular effect, target one card on the field and one card in either player's graveyard. Yeah, also if this card was target one card on the field and one card in either player's graveyard. If this card was tribute summoned by tributing one monster, you can target an additional card on the field, place the first targets on the top of the deck in any order. Also after that, return additional target in any to the hand. Mobius the Mega Monarch. When this card is tribute summoned, you can target up to 3 spell or trap cards on the field, destroy those targets. If this card was tribute summoned by tributing a water monster, Your opponent cannot activate the targeted cards in response to this card's this affects activation. Mobius the Frost Monarch. When this card is tribute summoned, you can target up to 2 spell or trap cards on the field, destroy those targets. Mithra the Thunder Vassal. If this card is in your hand, you can activate this effect. You cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of this turn. Also special summon this card, and if you do, special summon 1 vassal token to your opponent's side of the field, opponent's field in defense position. If this tribute for a tribute summon, you can activate this effect. You can tribute summon 1 monster during your main phase this turn, in addition to your normal summon or set. You're going to gain this effect once per turn. You're going to use each effect of Mithra the Thunder Vassal once per turn. I should have Soul Exchange. Lucius the Shadow Vassal. You can banish 1 level 5 or higher monster from your graveyard, special summon this card from your hand. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of this turn. If this card is tribute for a tribute summon, you can look at all set cards your opponent controls. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to this effect's activation. You can only use this once per turn. Landrobe the Rock Vassal. If this card is in your hand, you can target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls. You cannot special summon monsters from your extra deck for the rest of this turn. Also, special summon this card, and if you do, change that monster to a face-down defense position. If this card is tributed for a tribute summon, you can target 1 monster with 800 attack and defense in your graveyard, except this card, add it to your hand. Okay, Grandmog the Rock Monarch. If this card is tribute summoned, target 1 set card on the field, destroy that target. Grandmog the Mega Monarch. When this card is tribute summoned, target up to 2 set cards on the field, destroy those targets. If this tribute was summoned by tributing an Earth monster, add this additional effect. Also draw one card after that. Goram the Storm Vassal. You can return 1 tribute summon monster you control to the hand, special summon this card from your hand. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of this turn. If this card is tribute summoned for a tribute summon, you can add 1 monster. Yeah, same effect. In fact, I can just aside, then that way I can get Soul Exchange, because that way I can be able to easily tribute more monsters on my side of the field with the use of my opponent's card. Ishar the Frost Vassal. If your opponent controls 2 or more cards in their spell or trap card zones, you can special summon this card from your hand. Erebus the Underworld Monarch. If this card is tribute summoned, you can send 2 Monarch spell or trap cards with different names from your hand or deck to the graveyard, and if you do, shuffle 1 card from your hand at random, graveyard or their side of the field from your opponent's hand at random, graveyard or their side of the field into the deck. Once per turn during either player's main phase, if this card is in your graveyard, you can discard 1 Monarch spell or trap card, then target 1 monster in your graveyard with 2400 attack or more and 1000 defense added to your hand. Ether the Heavenly Monarch. If this card is tribute summoned, you can send 2 Monarch spell or trap cards with different names from your hand or deck to the graveyard, and if you do, special summon 1 monster with 2400 or more attack and 1000 defense from your deck, but return it to the hand during the end phase. During your opponent's main phase, if this card is in your hand, you can banish one Monarch spell or trap card from your graveyard. Immediately after this effect resolves, tribute summon this card. This is a quick effect. Okay, Yugioh, the Heavenly Squire. If this card is normal or special summon, you can special summon one monster with 800 attack and 1000 defense from your deck in defense position, except Yugioh. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from your extra deck. Yeah, if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target one of your banished Monarch spell or trap cards added to your hand. If you, you only use this once per turn. I can put it aside so that way I can get Snatch and Steal. I can take my opponent's monster so I can use it for a tribute. Okay, Dog, the Dark Monarch. When this card is normal or special summoned, you can target up to 2 cards in your opponent's graveyard. Bans that targets then send the same number of cards from the top of their deck to the graveyard. This card cannot attack during the turn this is normal or special summoned. Caius, the Shadow Monarch. If this card is tribute summoned, target 1 card on the field, banish that target. And if you do, inflict 1000 damage to your opponent if it's a dark monster. Caius, the Mega Monarch. If this card is tribute summoned, target 1 card on the field, banish it, and if you do, inflict 1000 damage to your opponent. Then if it's a dark monster, banish all cards with the same name from the hand, main deck, extra deck, and graveyard of the player who controlled it. If this card was tribute summoned by tributing a dark monster, add this additional effect. You can target 2 cards instead. Alright, Berlineth, the Firestorm Vassal. You can discard 1 card, special summon this card from your hand. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck. If this card is tribute summoned, you can look at your opponent's hand and banish 1 card from their hand, and until the end phase. You can only use this once per turn. And finally, Angmarl, the Fiendish Monarch. When this card is tribute summoned, you can banish 1 spell card from your graveyard, add 1 card with the same name as the banished spell card from your deck to your hand. On to the supports. The Prime Monarch. Once per turn, you can target 2 Monarch spell or trap cards in your graveyard, shuffle them into the deck, then draw 1 card. If this card is in your graveyard, you can banish 1 other Monarch spell or trap card from your graveyard, special summon this card in defense position as a normal monster, fairy type, level 5, 1000 attack, 2400 defense. The Monarch's Erupt. Activate this card only if you have no cards in your extra deck and you control a tribute summon monster. Negate the effects of all face-up monsters on the field while those monsters are face-up on the field, except tribute summon monsters. During your end phase, if you control no tribute summon monsters, send this card to your graveyard. The Monarch's Awaken. If you have no cards in your extra deck, target 1 face-up tribute summon monster you control. Its effects are negated. Also, it is unaffected by the effects of cards other than this card. The First Monarch. Supposed to summon this card as an effect monster, 1000 attack, 2400 defense. If summoned this way, you can discard 1 card, then declare 1 attribute. This card becomes that attribute and can be treated as 2 attributes for the tribute summon of a monster with the same attribute as this card. If this card was summoned this way, you cannot special summon monsters except monsters with this card's attribute. Okay, Oath of Championship. If you control no monsters that were special summoned from the extra deck, target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls that has special summoned from the extra deck. Take control of it until the end phase. You cannot special summon during the turn you activate this card. Escalation of the Monarchs. Once per turn, during your opponent's main phase or your opponent's battle phase, you can, immediately after this effect resolves, tribute summon one monster. Then the magic cards. The Monarch's Storm Forth. Once during this turn, if you would tribute a monster for a tribute summon, you can tribute one monster your opponent controls as if you controlled it. You can only activate the Monarch Stormforth per turn. During the turn you activate this card, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck. Tenacity of the Monarchs. Reveal one monster in your hand with 2400 attack and 1000 defense, or 2800 attack or 1000 defense. Add one Monarch's Polar Trap card from your deck to your hand. You can only activate this card once per turn. Strike of the Monarchs. You can tribute one face-up level 5 or higher normal monster set, normal summons or set. Then target one face-up card on the field. Negate its effect, then draw one card. If this card is in your graveyard, you can banish this card, then declare one attribute. All face-up monsters currently on the field become that attribute until the end of this turn. Return of the Monarchs. You cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck. When you tribute summon a monster, you can activate one of these effects. Add from your deck to your hand one monster with 2400 attack, 1000 defense, with a different name from that tribute summon monster. Add from your deck to your hand one monster with 2800 attack and 1000 defense with a different name from that tribute summon monster. Tribute summon monster must be face up on the field to activate and to resolve this effect. You can only use this once per turn. Pantheism of the Monarchs. Send one Monarch spell or trap card from your hand to the graveyard. Draw two cards. You can banish this card from your graveyard. Reveal 3 Monarch spell or trap cards from your deck. Your opponent choose one for you to add to your hand, and you shuffle the rest back into the deck. But you can only use this effect once per turn. March of the Monarchs. Tribute summon monsters you control cannot be targeted by or destroyed by card effects. You cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck. Frost Blast of the Monarchs. If you control a monster with 2400 or more attack and 1000 defense, target one set card on the field, destroy it. You can banish this card and add one Monarch spell or trap card from your graveyard, then target one set on the field, destroy it. And finally, Domain of the True Monarchs. While you have no cards in your extra deck and you are the only player that controls tribute summon monster, your opponent cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck. If a tribute summon monster you control attacks an opponent's monster, it gains 800 attack during damage calculation only. Once per turn, you can reduce the level of one monster with 2800 attack and 1000 defense in your hand by 2 until the end of this turn. Okay, so let's give these cards a whirl. God, it was a lot. Usually when I go over the the archetypes of cards, there's a lot of similar names or words that I have to say, and then get your mouth all dry and tongue-tied. I'll try something simple with this, because I honestly don't know how this entire archetype deck functions. I know how it will function, but actually put it into play format is a different story. And the vassals are like mini or a squire version of the monarchs. And the mega monarchs are like the Super Saiyan versions of the regular monarchs. Okay. They're not too shabby. Let's try against the Shadow Duelist. Yeah, the Monarch archetypes. Yeah, I mean, since building this deck, you cannot have any extra deck monsters at all, because half of these cards in this deck require you to not have any extra deck monsters in order to do certain tasks. So just cut them out completely. I think this is the only, I mean, probably not the only, but it's one of the few type of cards or decks that you can build that is not requiring you to have any extra deck cards at all, and you primarily focus on tribute summoning. Oh boy. Enough of that. Got my own little field spell card. Domain of the True Monarchs. Okay. Just gonna save that Caius Mega Monarch for later. Haha. Can't tribute something which I already tributed. Haha, you suck. Finish it. Not bad. I'm enjoying these Monarchs. And they're devastating. I mean, they're really devastating. Let's try against, I'm about to call him Kite. Chaz. I didn't have that much high hopes about this deck being utilized, but it's really catching me by surprise. Okay. Razor. The vassal. You can add one when deck to your hand. Yeah, of course. I'll say that next round. Just in case. Eh. I'll have this video posted on my channel probably tomorrow for anybody who wants to see how these Monarch decks actually operate. Because you don't have to build it in the way I'm doing it, but it's just that this is like a good build. A good build in general. Because in the past, because the Monarchs didn't have a support for a good period of time. When they did, because individually, these cards are devastating. You know, if used the right way. Because I can't tell you how many this Monarch, the Thunder Monarch, and the Frost Monarch caused me a heck of a lot of annoyance back in the day. Okay. Looking with Chumley. Dang it. Oh, that was a bad hand. Let's see. I guess that is the downside of this this archetype deck. Since you count on tribute summoning, if you end up drawing a hand where you cannot summon a monster right away for a sacrifice, then you're dead in the water until you do. Wait till the next round. Don't want to waste my Swords of Revealing Light unless I actually have to. I need that pot of duality. Oh. Pretty much bought myself some time, but there we go. Take this. First Monarch. Go with fire. Don't trust that. Yep. Yeah, he's done. Just in case that face down card tries something. Nice. This is kind of like with the Cosmo deck. I'm just surprised how well this deck functions. But if you're dealing with like an opponent who's removing cards from play or limiting your summoning in any way or negating your effects of your cards, then you are sunk when it comes to this deck. You cannot duel against anybody who has cards like that. Otherwise, it's little to what you can do. Okay. Let's try against Jaden. I think the next archetype deck I'm gonna do, probably gonna do that maybe next week, is gonna be the Gem Knight archetype. Well, it's not necessarily an archetype. No, not Gem Knight. Well, I'm gonna do Gem Knight, but that's gonna be for a character profile for Julia Crystal from Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5. But no, I'm going to do another archetype, but it will be what was that? Shoot, I'm blanking on it. Shoot, what was that archetype that I was planning on doing? Oh, the Archfiend archetype is the next archetype I'm going to do, probably next week. Okay, and if this card is in your hand, you can special summon. You cannot special summon monsters from your extra deck. Yeah. Okay. Get rid of that. Probably end the video right after I'm done with this. Shoot. Actually, I'll save it. After this, I'll probably take a few minutes, or at least maybe probably an hour, because I'll need to give me something to eat. Then I'll be hopping on for some Red Dead Redemption for a couple of hours. And there is the Monarch deck. Very, very good cards. Very, very good. I don't know. I might but it's probably gonna be a long while. I'm not sure. But something I've been tooling around with that I might revisit certain archetypes that I had a blast with, like my favorite archetypes that I've done. So might do one for a Cosmo deck. Then the Gladiator deck I had a ball with. That was another surprise that I had fun with. Light Swarm, and definitely this. I probably have to look at my videos just to recall what cards that I had in those decks. But yeah, I might, after I do like all the profiles, I'll probably go back to revisiting a lot of these my best cards that I've done. So go ahead and take a quick snapshot of this deck, because I'm definitely coming back to this. This was like amazing deck. I highly recommend trying this out, you guys. This is like a great deck, very great deck. You don't have to make it exactly like this, but at least somewhat keep this kind of core and have some. These vassals are very, these vassal cards are very, very good to have in your in this deck, just to have something to tribute, but also have something like Treeboard Frog. Just something to always keep a plenty with a spare monster to sacrifice. But yeah, this deck is phenomenal. I cannot praise it enough. So I'll be back next week for more Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy of the Duelists, and stay tuned. An hour or so I will be on some Red Dead Redemption. Just need to give me something to eat, and I will see y'all soon. So Take care.